Democratic candidates in major local elections won yesterday, and this is a really big deal because it does make a statement when it comes to Donald Trump, his popularity, and how much sway he has on these local elections. So let's start off with the great state of Virginia, where Democrats were able to flip the state to their advantage. In Virginia, Democrats reclaimed control of the state's General Assembly for the first time in 2 decades, building on big gains the party made just a year after Trump took office. When Trump took office, Democrats held just 33 of 100 seats in the state's House of Delegates. Come January, they will hold as many as 55. In the state Senate, Democrats won at least 21 out of 40 seats, meaning that the state legislature consists of majority Democrats.
Incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. Very, very good news. And then there was also great news out of Kentucky. Now, Republicans in Kentucky were really hoping that they could sway the gubernatorial race in their direction by nationalizing that race. So you had Governor Matt Bevin, who is the Republican incumbent, running against Beshear, the Democrat in the state. And it's incredible because Matt Bevin was not popular by any means. He was not polling well. And part of the reason why was because he was constantly going after the powerless in his state, namely the teachers who had decided to strike because there was some talk about their pensions not being properly funded. So they strike, and then Matt Bevin thinks it's a great idea to come out and say things like this.
You know, here's what's crazy to me. You know how many hundreds of thousands of children today were left home alone? I guarantee you somewhere in Kentucky today, a child was sexually assaulted that was left at home because there was nobody there to watch them. I guarantee you somewhere today, a child was physically harmed or ingested poison because they were home alone, because a single parent didn't have any money to take care of them.
So he went out there and he demonized these teachers who were essentially gonna get screwed when it came to their own pensions. And remember, we're talking about teachers. We're talking about people who are severely underpaid as it is. And he goes out there and he blames them for being accessories to terrible things like sexual assault.
Yeah, can I just say that no one suggests that a child who is at home from school will be sexually assaulted or poisoned unless they're a pedophile. So I'm pretty sure Bevin has sexually, I don't know, maybe he's thought about it, but no one's like, oh yeah, home from school. I'd be like, you get to watch cartoons, you like ride some bikes, and he's like, they're gonna be touched. And you're like, no.
It was weird that his mind went there. And I remember at the time when we covered that story, it was in 2018, I said that. I was like, I find it strange that his mind automatically goes there. That's not the way a normal person thinks.
Yeah, if you support him, you'd stop and go, man, I believe in Matt, what he's saying. Well, not that part. Where'd that come
Right.
from? And also, since he's so concerned with kids being home alone with single parent households and whether or not they can get to school every day, is he worried about maybe funding for school lunches? They can eat enough because a single parent household maybe not make enough. Also, during the summertime, is he passing legislation to fund some kind of oversight for kids when they're on summer vacation, maybe spring break, winter break, things like that when people have to work constantly and their kids are home alone? It's not just that day where kids are home alone, and parents are confronted with what to do with their children for daycare.
It was his way of, I don't know, attempting a guilt trip on these teachers who absolutely should have gone out there. They should have done the strike. I'm glad that they did it. But Matt Bevin loved to go after the powerless in Kentucky. For instance, he was very supportive of the law. He was proposing a law where you would have to work in order to receive Medicaid, right? And so that was wrapped up in the courts, but it's just another example of something that led to his level of or lack of popularity in the state. Now let's go to the election and what actually happened. In Kentucky, Attorney General Andy Beshear declared victory over Governor Matt Bevin by just over 4,600 votes out of more than 1.4 million cast, an apparent upset election in one of the more conservative states in the country. Now, just to give you an idea of how much of an upset this really is, 4 years ago, Bevin defeated his Democratic rival by about 85,000 votes. And in Jefferson County, the most populous in the state, Beshear beat Bevin by almost 100,000 votes, more than twice as large as the margin by which Bevin's 2015 opponent won it. Beshear almost doubled the 2015 Democratic nominee's performance in Fayette County, home of Lexington. So this is a big deal. And look, Bevin thought, Well, here's the thing. Kentucky is an interesting state, right? Because Kentucky will elect Democratic local politicians, but on a federal level, they're not happy with Democrats. And so they have latched onto Trump partly because Trump has this populist economic message. Like, we all know he's lying, but positioning himself as like this populist has really resonated with the conservative voters in Kentucky. And so what did Bevin do? He asked Donald Trump to basically rally for him in Kentucky, and that's exactly what he did on Monday. We have a short clip of that. Let's take a look.
Tomorrow, Kentucky has a chance to send the radical Democrats a message. You will vote to reject the Democrats' extremism, socialism, and corruption, and you will vote to reelect Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin, who's done a great job. Now, he is difficult, I have to say, you know, maybe it cost him the election, but it's okay. Here, look. He's such a pain. When he needs something for Kentucky, like money, like aid, like he wants me to call one of the many manufacturers now that are coming into Kentucky. Could you call the head of some company in Japan, please? I say, Matt, do I have to do it? Please, please. But isn't that really what you wanted, a governor? I mean, really. That's what you want. He's such a pain in the but that's what you want.
That is the president of the United States. But look, Bevin's attempt to nationalize that race didn't work. It wasn't good enough. So the economic populist message that came from Beshear out-trumped Donald Trump's rally and Bevin's attempts to nationalize that race.
Bevin was sitting on the sidelines. There was a camera shot that we didn't have there where he's sitting there and he was going, how could you do this to me?
I know.
No, the whole time he's sitting there going, yeah, man, such a pain. How does that work? Okay, so again, we just talked about last week how, or maybe earlier this week, when Trump was going after California over the wildfires and going after the governor here, Newsom. Oh my God, he wants all this money. I'm gonna pull that money because you guys don't listen to me. I thought you just said that's a pain for Matt Bevin to be bugging you all the time to beg for money and beg for this and beg for that. But somehow California, with a natural disaster that's happening, normal funding for things that help citizens of this country, that's not good enough. But this guy begging for money so he can make sure companies come in, he can give tax breaks to while he screws over the people of the state. That's an okay thing. Which one? It's because he supports you and this other one doesn't. It all comes down to that.
100%.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, first of all, that entire claim, like, don't you want someone who's a sycophantic loyalist? Hey, like, no, you don't want that.
So
like,
weird.
But this defeat of Bevin, I think, shows a number of things. And to your point about Bevin trying to nationalize Trump's victory, Trump's message, to sort of like, latch onto his coattails and say this still works in 2019, did absolutely fail. And it shows that the message around radical socialism, it's falling on deaf ears because people don't actually understand what is being said. Like, all right, are there re-education camps yet? Like, when do I go? Do they got health care? Because I'm talking about health care. It turns out that's what Beshear is talking about.
Yes, exactly.
He is talking about health care. He is against these Medicaid work requirements. He is for keeping Medicaid expansion. And then I think it's really important that it's not just Bevin's miscalculation in terms of whether he, brought Trump in at the wrong time, which is like such a gamble. Like, hey, let's bring senile old grandpa in here to sort things out. Like, whoa. But it shows that like organizing, the teachers, organizing works. Kentucky Education Association, the Kentucky Education Association knocking on doors, that actually works. And I feel like a lot of the media, we're always like, okay, well, how does that have to do with DC or not? It's like, screw DC, this has to do with people on the ground, just like a victory like AOC's in Queens, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Or the Bronx, why am I saying Queens?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. That activism on a local level is incredibly effective. But also, I just want to note, and really hammer this point, because people keep arguing that Joe Biden should be the Democratic nominee for president because of his electability. But keep in mind that the one message, possibly the only message that resonates for voters across the ideological spectrum, is the economic populist message. It really is. Because whether you're a Democrat or Republican, if you're working class or middle class, you are feeling the injustice of this economic system. So what Beshear did was incredibly savvy, incredibly smart. He stayed on message. There were multiple attempts to try to get him to attack Trump. And while I believe it's obvious that he's not a fan of Trump, he avoided doing that because he understood making that race about whether or not you support Donald Trump is essentially handing a victory to Bevin.
Because we've seen the way sometimes Trump supporters work. They don't care that he has bad policies. But with maybe other Republicans, again, in this case, Bevin, his bad policies are on full display. And then, okay, there was, I think the 4 of the 5 seats still stuck with Republicans they're talking about. And we'll talk about how Fox News was bragging about that and Trump Jr. was as well. But that's the thing, when people are dug in their smaller elections, smaller campaigns, they're still stuck with I gotta go with Republicans because Republicans are best for me. But on the full state scale, when Bevin's running, you have to deal with everyone. And everyone is gonna have to deal with seeing what this guy's doing for the entire state. And there's enough people that look up and say, this isn't working out for me. But so to take the lead for what Beshear did, you have to continue to push the truth narrative of what's really happening with policies. Because the rest of these guys have just as bad a policy as Bevin did. It's just they weren't put at such a large scale of the entire state. He's being the head of the state, his is put on blast. So smaller campaigns running for these other seats, make sure you point out the opponents, the same type of agendas they have that are very similar to Bevin's.
And then one other thing I wanted to point out. So in Kentucky, the voters tend to vote for both Republican and Democrat candidates, right? But on a national level, they have a great deal of disdain for Democratic members of Congress. I mentioned that, and I mentioned the relevance of that because what that means is they feel, look, we already know the economic populist message resonates with them. They feel left behind by Democrats on a national level. So for the Democrats, the corporatists who are saying, oh, no, forget about the Warrens and the Bernies of the world. They're gonna cost us the election. We need a moderate, we need a centrist. Now, understand that the messaging coming from those types of candidates does not resonate with as many people. It just doesn't.
Absolutely, and I think you put the shoe on the other foot. Okay, running on pro-Trump, anti-impeachment doesn't work. So then the converse is true. Running only on the impeachment and only against Trump, Biden, doesn't work. It's not going to work to only make this a national thing. Go local, and I think we saw, some Democrats saying, oh, hey, look, healthcare wins, education wins. It's like, who are the candidates who are speaking about public education, expanding public education? Who are the candidates who are talking about expanding Medicaid and Medicare for all? Like these, it's not a philosophical conversation. It's not an ideological conversation. It is a stat-heavy, proven conversation that when you run on these bread and butter issues, you're gonna win.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, Jayar. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.